right? 30 days after she shipped the order, she sent them an invoice. Fantastic business, it appears, because you've got this beautiful cash flow, but you have no cash. Why? If I run a perfume company called VT Perfumes, why would I want my perfume sitting next to 15 of my competitors? It's simple. It's because I won't do the volume in my store to cover the fixed costs. I won't be able to pay rent and the rest of it. However, I might not be able to cover the full store, but I can certainly cover this table. So I'm not recommending that if your business is growing too fast, you stop the rate of growth. It's not what I'm saying. I'm recommending you get a quality of people around you who are able to deal with the rate of growth that you're experiencing. And there's telltale signs. Telltale signs. The first telltale sign of a business that's growing too fast is when you have an acceleration in the number of customer complaints. That's first telltale sign. So on average, we deal with 10 customer complaints, and in a period of 3 months, we've gone from 10 customer complaints a month to 50. A 5x growth in customer complaints in 3 months tells you that there is something in your system that needs fixing. Now first, the fact that you dealt with 10 and now are dealing with 50 is often a reflection of the growth in the number of customers you have in the first place. Telltale sign. You're outgrowing the systems you have in your business. Customer complaints will always tell you this, right? That's the first telltale sign. The second telltale sign, although admittedly it's a head sign, not a tail sign, because it generally happens as a headwind, not a tailwind, is you will have working capital problems. So what will happen is the finance people in the room will, this is it's like management accounting 101, right, really. But so timeline, day 1, day 120. You were at the session we had the other day? Remember Flora said that she sent an invoice and they paid her 90 days. Do you remember what I said after that? I asked her a question. Remember what my question was?
Yeah, the 120. You asked her if it's 90 or 120 days.
I said to her, is it 90 days of invoice or 90 days of statement? Yeah. You know why? Because here's basically what she was saying. She was saying she got an order day somewhere here. Let's say day minus 10. She got an order, right? She went into a business, she packaged the order, blah, blah, blah. She shipped the order to them on day 1. Right? 30 days after she shipped the order, she sent them an invoice. "30 days after that, she probably sent them a statement, letting them know how much they owed. And they paid her 90 days after that. Some of you here will have it differently. The day you issue the order, you issue the invoice. Might well be the case, but then 30 days after issuing the invoice, you'll issue the statement. And when do you get paid? 90 days after that. So here's what this means. I love this. Here's what this means. So, day 1, you get the order, right? And the order is for $100,000. Receive it, my sister. I'm speaking it into your life. Praise Jesus. Hallelujah. This is the order that you're taking in, right? So you get this order for $100,000. Fantastic. You get the order, you go, holy man, my problems are over now. Yeah? All of a sudden when the bank calls, you start answering the phone. Hello? Yeah, you must wait. I'll pay you. I've got money now. But really what you have is a promissory note. It's an order from a client, buying products, and you're going to supply the products, right? But you feel good. So you've got this order for $100,000. So what do? Is you go into your whatever system you're using, and you book this order of $100,000 as turnover here. So if I come in as an investor, I go, wow, 100,000 turnover, fantastic. So they do this on day 1. Day 30, they place another order for another 100,000. Day 60 here, they place another order for another 100,000. Which means if I look at this period, you've got a beautiful turnover of 300 keys. It's fantastic. Right. How much money is in your bank? Nothing. They haven't paid you yet. They issued you the order. You sent them an invoice. After you sent them an invoice, they asked you for a statement for the first order. And once you sent them the statement, they said, we're going to pay you 90 days after that statement. But in the meantime, they place a second order. You send them another invoice. Then they want a statement 30 days after that. And they will only pay. Do you see what's happening? Fantastic business, it appears. Because you've got this beautiful cash flow, but you have no cash. Fantastic, like, look of revenues, but nothing in your cash in the business. Telltale sign that you're growing too fast. Telltale. So what do you do here? Well, 2 things. The first is you need somebody who's going to provide you with some sort of external base of capital. A bank that's willing to forward lend you money. There's a lot of fintech companies now that do this. They'll forward you the money. They'll go, okay, supply the order. And you supply the order. You send them the information from the customer that you've supplied the order and the invoice. They go to the customer and confirm that the order has been supplied, the invoice has been issued, and the customer is going to pay. And then what they do is they will forward you 80 cents on the dollar for the order that you've supplied. Which means for that order of 100,000, you will get $80,000 cash. Now, some of you are going, why would I take $80,000 cash? Because $80,000 cash today is a lot more than $100,000 cash in 4 months' time when my business doesn't even exist anymore. First. Second, if I'm supplying this product at $100,000, but it costs me $70,000, I'm happy to take a $20,000 haircut because I'm still making my $10,000 profit. Does this make sense? But all of this comes down to the quality of the team you had. You need a team that's going to help you model all of this and help you understand. So this is why retailers do this a lot. Retailers do this a lot. The business of retail, by the way, is not selling product. The business of retail is selling money. Because they take money from the supplier, they hold it for 120 days, keep it in their bank account and earn an interest, and then pay it back to the supplier for 120 days. And by the time they paid back to the supplier, they've earned 3, maybe 4% interest on the money, but they're making 3-4% on the store. Just go, do yourself a favor, go look at all the large retailers, go through their income statements, and it's very curious. They'll have like turnover, blah, 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 sales and general expenses, and all the rest of it. And then somewhere at the bottom, when they for the financing costs, they'll have interest income, which is curious, because why is a company that sells water earning interest? They don't sell money. It's because they keep your money and hold it in their bank account. The bank pays them interest, and they hold that money. Okay, so that's the first tell. If you have this, so the first telltale sign is the one I told you about. The second one is this. If you have this problem, you're growing faster than you have the capacity to grow. And then a final note just on this growing too fast thing. Remember that growing too fast, going back to my example about you versus Lewis Hamilton, really is a capacity problem. So what you're trying to do is to amplify the capacity in your business. And what are the different capacities that you need? First, human capital. Good team, right? Human capital. First form of asset, capacity that you need. Excuse me. Second, financial. I've got the right people, have got the right finances, the right capital structure. Can I meet my liabilities as and when they become due? Right? Third, technological. Is there a way that we can do what we do faster, more efficiently, deliver better value to the customer for a cheaper cost? Right? So each of these are different capacities that you need to build into your business. Second question, ma'am.
So my second question now highlights on the last point that you talked about, technology capacity. So right now we are in 21st century, meaning we are going global, and so our businesses will stop being local, serving the local market. As we're going global, you find yourself being inhibited by regulations from different countries.
Yes.
and your capacity also will be affected again when you're going to South Africa, dealing with clients and all that. I started my business in 2018, started training Kenyans, and then now in 2020, we started getting clients from Malawi, Nigeria, Ghana. So we couldn't say no to those clients, so we started venturing into those spaces. And then now we are affected because we don't know how to serve better in all these countries and ensuring all the regulations are met and not, our business is not affected in the process.
So I'll ask the question again. So when your business started offering your product or service in different countries, why did you do it?
Why did I do it?
Yes.
Is because our target audience were the same and we wanted to amplify products to meet those clients. In
New markets.
Yeah.
Wasn't it you that said something about a minimum viable order? It was you, right? Right. So the basic theory behind a minimum viable order, some people, there's another word for it. It's like a watermark, a threshold. So there's a certain volume you need for the business to make sense. A certain volume you need. Below that, you can't cover your fixed costs, okay? So the cost of regulation is a fixed cost. Now, if you're being invited to come to a new market and offer a product, but you're not getting enough volume for that market, my recommendation is find an in-country partner who's going to execute it for you. That's why I said, why are you taking the execution risk?
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So somebody comes, so you have, let's imagine for you to cover the cost of setting up an office, paying salaries, every single month you need 200 customers.
Yeah.
And in Tanzania, next door, 80 customers want to buy your product now. It's below your minimum viable order, minimum. So what you should do is go to Tanzania and find somebody you can work with who will deliver and execute on the 80 for you. Once they start delivering and executing on the 80, you can then run marketing campaigns to say to the population in Tanzania, I'm in town, come buy from me. When you reach 200, then you go and enter yourself. I don't know if you guys have them here in Kenya, but there are certain department stores in the world where you'll find a product and you know the brand, but the brand doesn't have a brand store, right? So for instance, if you go to Macy's on Fifth Avenue, if you go to the duty-free section at Dubai Airport, right? Yeah. And you walk through those stores where they sell perfumes. You've seen those, right? Yeah. How come the perfume company didn't go and set up their own shop? I mean, why if I run a perfume company called VT Perfumes, why would I want my perfume sitting next to 15 of my competitors? It's simple. It's because I won't do the volume in my store to cover the fixed costs. I won't be able to pay rent and the rest of it. However, I might not be able to cover the full store, but I can certainly cover this table. So I'm going to put my stock in this table. You're going to put your stock on that table, that table, that table. We come together, we share the costs, and then customers come in and they buy. You see a lot of this in car dealerships. Generally, if you are in any place and you find one car dealership, what do you notice? There'll be 4 or 5 car dealerships in the same place. Why would I put my car dealership next to my competitor? Because I want to grab my customer at a point at which they're interested in buying cars. And the best way to know is if they go and see my competitor. That's the best way to know. So I'm saying the following, that don't take the execution risk yourself unless you reach that minimum threshold. Unless, you're sitting next to a very wealthy banker. Unless my good friend from Standard Chartered is willing to write you $1 million check for you to cover the cost of setting up and all the rest of it. I just don't recommend that you do this.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Say again? Still have to pay the debt. Don't even get me started on this, right? The interest costs, the interest cover, the covenants ratios, and the very small and little fact that debt is due and callable at any time. And the bank just phones you and says, you remember that 100,000? We want it now. Politely.
Thank you. Put me through. Vusi, I have a question here. On the day before yesterday, you mentioned that you were in Dubai and you went for checkup. And in a hospital, there are only two people, two human beings. And one of them was ensuring that the systems are working. That one got me almost a heart attack because I have invested all the money that I have made in my life in the healthcare sector. I called in a number of my friends and I told them that for us to be able to live after work comfortably, we invest in health sector. So we did that, and I have been telling them that this is a sector that you can't go wrong. So when you mentioned that, what came to my mind is that because Africans, we are not getting involved in making the robots, which are taking over the jobs. We don't make the medicine. We don't make the equipment that are used in hospitals. Then where are we? And I would like your advice, because one of the things that we are doing, Nelson Mandela lived to 94 years.
Oh, shit.
Yes, Nelson Mandela. By the way, Vusi, one of the things is that in Africa, we started independence in 1957, Ghana, and your country was the last one to get independence.
Yeah.
So we are over 60 years. Sudan is annexing. So we have over 60 years now independence. Yet, all over the country, Africa, most of our economies, we are just doing point of sale. We are at the point of sale. Most Africans don't understand value chain in a business. Whenever we are getting into business, we go at the last level. We do not control. We do not have any say. Like now in medicine, in the area of health, which is very critical, and that's what I do, we are at the last point. And when robots now have come into the service sector, personally, I'm feeling like, where do we go from now? And I know you are very patriotic. You don't do business for money. I know even you're talking and coming to Kenya is not because of money. It's because you have a robot. Amanda will come later, but I know you are very patriotic because the way you do your things and the way you talk to us, the way you give us ideas and the way you interact with Africa, it is that you have a calling. And this is very good. So I want you to advise, where are we going from here? Because as digitization is taking over, as robots, drones, and artificial intelligence is taking over, where will we be? 1.3 billion people?
Are there any other questions? Yeah, look, help me say this right. Let me say this right. Okay. First, I've sat on the other end of the table and criticized for long enough to know that the return for criticism is zero. Criticism, if you were to put criticism on a financial return model, the outcome would be zero. I've done it for long enough, I know this. So I say that only to say the following, that knowing what needs to change and knowing what's wrong means nothing. Let me full stop on this. Second thing I want to say to you is, if you study the history of kind of global economics, certainly the era of modern economics since the 1820s really, kind of the domination of Europe at the beginning of the American century in the 1910s, the Marshall Plan in the 1940s, making America the largest economy by the 1960s, all of this. You realize that every region in the world has had a plan for Africa. Africa has never had a plan for all the regions in the world. Forget ourselves. Forget ourselves. I mean, if I were to ask you guys here, what's East Africa's plan for the domination of the steel manufacturing sector in China? It's interesting because you need steel as an input of all the infrastructure projects you're doing here, right? Now, this is why I said I started off by saying the return from criticism is zero. So I say these things to reflect, not to criticize. Just to reflect. So we don't have a plan for the world. Friends of mine who work in kind of the African Union will talk to me about Agenda 2063, and it's nice. I've read the document. It's a beautifully fantastic, well-written piece of literature. The jury is out on our ability to execute on what's in that piece of paper, because there are two things that Africans do really well. First, African leaders throw the javelin so far into the future, they're not going to be alive to be held accountable for that javelin. So you're a president today and you throw forward into 2060. How are we going to know? When 2022, how about 2025? You know, in Dubai they have Vision 2025, not Vision 2060. It's now, it's happening now. So the first is a lack of accountability, because we throw our plans so far into the future, we'll never be held accountable for these plans. And then the second is a lack of planning for ourselves in terms of who we want to be in the context of the rest of the world. For the longest time, the world has happened to Africa. For the longest time, the future has happened to Africa. We don't happen to the future. We're sitting in this room right now. This may or may not be getting streamed. If it is, I promise you it's not getting streamed on a platform built by an African. These cameras that are being used, not made in this continent. These threads we're wearing, probably not made here. Everything we do every day is like it's an importation of the global standard, right? So this is the reflection. I think we need to find a way of working with those in power rather than criticizing them. And sometimes the best way to work with those in power is to do your thing and they'll catch up. Yeah, man, look. There are certain things I want to say, but I don't want to say them.
No, say it.
No. No. I am, as my team often says, you are CEO. You're responsible for more lives than yourself. Look, all I'm saying to you is the following, that we have to get beyond criticism. I think knowing what's wrong and criticizing what's wrong is good, it's fair, it's all well, but it changes nothing. Changes nothing. I'm tired of the heated conversation that results in no action. What we have to figure out is, how do we change stuff? This is, for me, what's more important. How do we actively change stuff, right?
Hello, family. The VT Masterclass has now reached over 5 million unique entrepreneurs all across the world. If you'd like to book me for one, make sure that you hit the link below. Cheers.